Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this fourth day of August. And wow, we got a big show with you on coming up today. A couple big stories here broken here in the last few hours. The Pac-10 is now the Pac-4. You've got as far as of August the 2nd of next year. We're going to have Oregon and Washington with addition to USC. I want to say USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. Anthony Davis has signed an extension with the Lakers. Got plenty to say about that. Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez should be coming in here in just a minute. But we'll go ahead and get our first and only break out of the way. We'll be back in 49 seconds here on Sports Scope. We'll hit the ground running. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, I'm back here live. Okay, now, Anthony Davis has this reported out, like I said, about an hour or so ago. I read about an hour or so ago. It looks like Adrian Wojciechowski reported this at 2:52. I didn't catch it until here recently. But Anthony Davis has agreed to a 3-year, $186 million contract extension, tying him to the franchise through 2028. Now, and it says that Davis' deal is the richest annual contract extension in NBA history, averaging $62 million per season. Now, mind you, he is on contract this year, coming up in the fall this year for $40 million, 23 and 24, and he's also locked in for 24 and 25. He'll be 31 years old. We know LeBron thought about it, contemplated retirement already. I don't know if I would bank on LeBron absolutely going to retire after he plays a year with his son. That seems like something that the Lakers are thinking about. You look at a guy like Anthony Davis. Yeah, he put together a good stretch last year. One of the better players in the league last year, helped push them all the way to the to the Western Conference Finals. They lost in 5. But we know that he has been an injury-prone player prior to that. Why wouldn't you just give him another year to play out? You could play out this season. And then, of course, if LeBron retired, then you can make that decision after next season, say, okay, do we run it back one more year with Anthony Davis on a contract year, or do we just trade him for and get some prospects there and rebuild around our young players, your Austin Reeveses of the world and everything? Though I know those guys are pieces, and I know Davis is, he's only 30 years old, but you got to look at the fact of his injury history. He would be a really high caliber player to trade for assets, especially when LeBron has got 1 foot on the retirement list there. pushing 40 years old now, folks. So I just don't. But that's typical of the Lakers, if you ask me. They're a team. Now did they put together a good run there? Yes, I said that. And quite frankly, they put together a good run after the trade deadline, getting rid of Westbrook. Okay, I predicted they would win. They would beat Memphis, and also predicted they would beat Golden State in the playoffs 2-2, and they would lose in 6 to Denver. Okay. That being said, this is the same Laker team that signed Kobe to that extension, huge extension, massive extension for a Kobe Bryant there. And they paid for that down the stretch. They were so far money-wise. But they're a team that they're really into selling speakers. They're really into selling tickets now rather than thinking about the future. On that note, Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez, if I can bring you on the screen. There you are. Hey, man, how you doing?
Yo, what's up? How you doing? Happy Friday, man.
Happy Friday. Hey, listen, I was just opening the program talking about that Anthony Davis extension, how
Woo-hoo-hoo!
this dude's got 2 years left. I don't know what they were thinking, man. What's your deal on them extending $62 million a year? That's the most of any player.
I'm thinking I want to look at the contract. I want to see how much of it is based on incentives.
Most of it's just flat out. You know how it is in NBA.
Yeah.
They got it made.
That's a nice little chunk of change, man. Let me tell you. And then people get you ever walk around somebody who's who's taller than 6'7", and you're like, you must play basketball. you ever do that? You ever think do I know this guy? Does he play basketball? And you kind of talk to him and be like, hey,
for liquid cooled.
Do you play basketball? You ask them, they're like, no, I don't play basketball. I'm just tall. And you're like, you shake your head like you should have played basketball because these guys.
When I was a kid, I used to say that all the time. When you see somebody really tall. Yeah. When I see a guy over 6'3", I would say that,
Yeah,
I'm only like 5'7", 5. When I was a kid, I was 5'4", 5'5". I'm like, wow,
I mean, that's a lot of.
Now he's 6'11", I think.
He's almost he's almost 7 foot. He's not 7 foot.
Yeah, long arms. I mean, he looks like an NBA player, but I mean, you're aware of his injury history, and yeah, he put together a good stretch last year, but you got to think to yourself, you're probably getting maybe 1 year out of LeBron, maybe 2. Why not wait all the way till when LeBron leaves? And you never know when that injury is going to come back for him,
And this goes to show when people tell you the big guys, the leagues has changed, the big guys don't matter. The big guys matter, and the big guys are going to get paid.
That's the flip side. The bigs do. I mean, we saw with the Joker, and Giannis. That's two bigs winning.
So you have to pay him because he has to go against people like Giannis and people like Joker. So it's not him exactly because you could say the same thing for Embiid. Even though Embiid played more than 60 games and he was MVP last year.
He gets hurt almost every playoff.
And remember we were talking the other day. Remember when the games were going on? I was like, man, Embiid's playing so hard. You better be careful. He's going to get hurt. And what happened?
He was really pressing to get that MVP. He
got hurt at the beginning of the season, but he came back. I mean, look, these big guys, they matter. And if you don't think they matter, then you're not paying attention to the league. And I mean, even players like Plumlee are still getting paid. And Plumlee's not a bad player. They just don't.
I don't know where he's at. Where's he at? The Lakers?
Plumlee is. I don't know. I think he just got moved again. So, but and another thing. Look, it's not just that. He sells jerseys. I mean, he played better than LeBron.
That's the way they're looking at it too. That I think they're looking at that. They never plan for the future. You can tell this is Jenny Buss and not Dr. Buss. They're just win today.
Well, the thing is, but Robert, who are you going to get to replace him? And
that's what you pay your scouts for.
And if you replace him, how and you're going to pay less, what are you getting back in return as far as the fans? The fans have to know who this is LA, right? So you have to have a premier player anyway. So it's not like he's in Memphis. Remember, for the longest time, Paul Gasol, nobody knew who he was. He played in Memphis. Yeah. He played very well. And then it was like, wait a minute, once he got into LA, he blew up,
Well, he went with the mega star too, with Kobe too. I mean, it wasn't.
Yep.
Yeah, I always think it's not all the way not true, but it's slightly overstated. I mean, if you play well, you're going to get noticed even in San Antonio, Texas,
Okay, so here's the thing, Robert. Rick Smith played with Reggie Miller. At the end of the day, these big guys matter. And if there's a bigger guy like a Shaq around or a Patrick Ewing or a Olajuwon or whatever to compete against them, then you have to have somebody there. And and as the time changes and the league changes, those things don't change. If you got one guy who could shoot, you got to have another guy to.
Yeah, but I'm saying the early extension with 2 years left. I mean, wouldn't you kind of wait another year? I mean,
but the business of it is that you put it on once you put something on the table, and it don't get snatched up, you're liable to losing him. And if you lose him, you got nobody else to pick up to compete against those other guys.
Yeah, that's typical Lakers. No, that's a good transition. That was my point about the Mets. You're always trying to do something today, throw together a team. 39-year-old Matt Scherzer, 40-year-old Justin Verlander.
I didn't like those picks at all. You heard me, right? I talked about that. I was like, they're a little bit past the prime.
Yeah.
They don't really have that much left in the tank as far as and then they're ultra competitive, which is great, but the fact that you're over your peak and you're ultra competitive doesn't balance you out to make you an everyday player, right? And those guys, Scherzer didn't play as well as he got paid, but Verlander was actually playing pretty well.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the Mets might have gotten their return out of that, but I was like this, and this is how I felt. Once they got rid of Bassett, I felt bad because Bassett would have been a better signing for the Mets.
Now, who was this guy? I'm just asking you because I don't know all the team like that.
Yeah, so Chris Bassett was a couple the year before the Mets got the Scherzer.
Okay.
He was
he a starter or reliever?
Yeah, he's a starter. So right now he's a starter for Toronto, and he's like 10-5. Right? Okay. So he would have been okay to keep around because you're at least gonna get someone who's starting to peak, right? Because he's not young. The Mets picked him up from the Oakland A's. So and the A's are known for having a good minor league system and good pitchers. They're not always great, but you at least know you're getting a good pitcher. It's hard to find greatness. They're a dime a dozen. So anybody wants to talk baseball and say, oh, this guy's great. Like, yeah, okay, but we'll see.
That was my suggestion. Maybe they should take a big step back so they could take a step forward, get better scouts, get a better general manager. Take your time, do it the right way. I think you probably heard my rant that day talking about the core four with the Yankees that won. Who was it? Pettit, Jeter, Rivera. Posada. There's one more, and I can't remember who was the other guy.
Jorge Posada.
Posada, yeah, the catcher.
The catcher.
Yeah. Rely on your farm system, put money in your farm system, your development, and then when you get those guys in, you still got the money to go out and get those free agents, but don't build outside in, build inside out like the Yankees did, and maybe go on a run and be the king of New York, maybe the king of all of Major League Baseball with Cohen's. And that takes patience and stuff, something that I know a lot of New York teams don't have because of that media market up there.
Well, I mean, this is the concrete jungle, my man, and like
I know,
and you got to sell tickets, and sometimes the name matters. The name sells tickets, and that's part of the business side of it. But what we have to do is calm down as New Yorkers and baseball fans and understand that if you're a Mets follower and you follow the Mets, that this is only Cohen's second year, and he's a businessman. He's more entrepreneurial than he is like he knows
that it takes time to build a business.
Then he has a lot of money to play with too. So since it's something that he's just new in, he's like, okay, I threw $300 some odd million on the table. let's go back and let's try something different, which is good because he's new at this still. This is just the second year, and he did last year get 100 wins. He got the Mets to 100 wins, being able to spend a little bit of money.
Right.
He got them in a good run. But again, you can't just throw money on the table.
Was it DeGrom and Harvey? Wasn't those guys from the Mets farm system originally?
DeGrom was. And so was
Okay.
Harvey, yeah. But
Where did Matt Harvey come from?
what do you mean, like?
Yeah, did he come through the Mets farm system, or did
so-
you require?
So in 2015, those guys, Steven Matz, Matt Harvey,
And
Noah
who's
Syndergaard.
the other one?
Noah
Syndergaard.
Syndergaard, and Jacob DeGrom were like somehow or another.
So y'all called those guys up essentially, right?
right? Those are the youngest.
So it tells you there's some potential with the guys you got. You may just want to add on scout wise,
But it doesn't in baseball. You have a plan. You get a roster, and you move forward. And I mentioned this morning with Keith. Is even the player Brandon Nimmo who got signed, who just got signed to an extension and a bigger contract. He said the same thing. Like what we had in spring training is nothing like what we see now. We were expecting to go to World Series and make a run, and we're towards the end of 3/4 done with the season, and it's it's different, and that's baseball, and it's also a business. So you can't expect to, if you're not doing well, you can't expect to be staying around. He said that, and that's a baseball player acknowledging the fact that they're not playing well, and people were gonna get sacked, and and everybody was kind of just gritting their teeth. I mean, even a player like Pete Alonso they were shopping him too, like because his contract's coming up as well. So and because it's again, I say this all the time. It's not our money. We just buying tickets and we want to see championships. It's not our money. And this guy spent $353 million. Man, he's
got to be frustrated.
Yeah. So I taking it through the business perspective and just the eye in the situation. He tried something, it didn't work, and he's not gonna be doing the same thing. Now he has to try a different angle.
I think he's gonna try my approach. Just get
it's hard to get. And the thing is, and I told Keith this morning too, and people know this, it's like the Major League Baseball just contracted the minor leagues last year. So that means that there's less players to kind of like move around. Right? Yeah, 210 million dead cash. I mean, listen, again, it's not, I'm a fan, it's not my money, I got
that's true.
I got maybe a 0.0000012 because of season ticket holder, but
ain't that the truth?
But that's pennies on the dollar, man. So
right.
The main idea is that he's doing and he's moving and he's shaking things up, and that's better than what the Mets fans were getting from the Wilpons,
right?
And because what the Wilpons were doing were kind of like what this guy was doing across the street, was doing in the Bronx. It's like let's try to get a guy who's okay, and let's see how long he lasts on a decent contract, and save a little bit of money, and that doesn't always work, So, you got to give credit to an owner who's got money, who's willing to spend money, and is not always doing the same thing. So I think he's on a great trajectory to do the team better eventually. But the thing is, it's like you said, if you want to pick him from the farm system, fine. But that doesn't always work out either. There's a lot of teams that have no money. They pick from the farm system, and they just get rotten carrots and dead lettuce. The same thing, just cash, just all the money they spend on the young guys, and they don't get no money around.
That dead money stop a team from. But listen to this, John and Carlos. I think you listen to pro. This is what I talked about earlier this week. Listen to these teams. You're pretty familiar with baseball. Okay, the Astros. This was off Google the other day. The Astros have the greatest percentage of homegrown players of any champion this century, according to Baseball America. The only other champions in which homegrown players made up even half of the World Series roster, the 2002 Angels, that means no, never mind. But you had the 2020 Dodgers, who are still relevant, and the 2014 Giants. How many rings did they win? Didn't they win like 2 or 3 also?
Right.
So my point is, look, you even got a big market LA Dodger team in there. So I don't think it's out of the question just because you're a major market, the major market, to still go with the homegrown. If you look at the Yankees, the core four there.
Yeah,
you don't have to be all homegrown, but put more emphasis in doing that.
If you talk about the Dodgers picked up Mookie Betts a couple years ago. They also got Turner from the Mets like maybe 7 to 8 years ago. They got a lot of players from different places. They don't just homegrown guys. They got
the whole team.
They got other players from different places too, but a quarter of their team or more, yes. But your farm system is your farm system, and you want
it's half your team. You can't have all free agents.
Right.
They
you
want to
play harder. You want to make sure that you get those guys who have potential to come up. That's the point of it. But the farm systems haven't been adequate in the last 10 years, and they just contracted them 2 years ago. So you're still not. Yeah. You're still going to have a little bit of imbalance
came through your system. Syndergaard. We talk about Syndergaard, Reyes. I mean, it's not terrible. It just probably needs some repatching up to do. And I think it's food for thought. It just takes patience, and I don't think these guys have. But here's my thing: what if they're mediocre for 2 or 3 years, but then in 2028, this team is they are a potential World Series team for 3 to 5 years, maybe 10 years down the road, and multiple championships. That's what I'm thinking. Instead of just win a championship, blow the team up, win the championship, blow the team up, and be bad year at the instead of being steady, Right.
Well, there's a couple of things, too, that these teams who are winning have that the Yankees had an opportunity. I mentioned this earlier today with Keith as well. It's like, who's at the Astros right now that's a part of the scouting team and helping them? You got Reggie Jackson, who knows about baseball.
Yeah.
He was actually wanting to be in ownership with the Yankees, and they was like, nah, never mind, right? They didn't give him the time of day, right? So now he's with Houston doing big things. Who else? Nobody wanted to give the time of day to Dusty Baker after they blew up the Houston team. They went out and they have leadership, they have management, they have people there.
But maybe it's deeper than that. Maybe it's the general manager, the scouts that we don't know about.
Just having those two guys, just having Dusty Baker and Reggie Jackson on your management team is 3/4 what you need, because you got guys that understand not just the game, but they understand.
Baker's been deep in the playoffs.
Yeah,
with,
so
multiple teams there.
If you turn around, the Yankees, they got a guy in Boone who's from a baseball family, but he ain't coached. He came straight from the booth, right?
Yeah.
And then they just picked up John Casey because another guy though, he wasn't coaching, he was from the booth, but he at least they both were players. So but when you have an opportunity to get these kind of guys that know about players, that know about baseball, you gotta stay with them, man, because it takes time to build. It takes time to get all that together.
The Braves, Chad, a lot of homegrown. Remember, the Braves let Freddie Freeman walk.
Okay, let's talk about the Braves. But the Braves also
Ron Acuna, Strider. I mean, these are all homegrown guys, just about.
Right. I mean, they had to leave some up. They had to let that other guy go, though. What's his name? And they left. And
Cashman, Cashman's been around for 25 years. He's gotten away from pitching, man. Why don't nobody go after middle relief anymore?
Well, they just signed Cole. The problem is those contracts.
That's a starter, though.
The problem with the contracts with the Yankees, man, they went deep with these guys. They're handcuffed with Stanton deal. They're handcuffed with the Judge deal now. They're handcuffed with the Cole deal.
The Stanton deal really hurt them.
And they're trying to penny pinch and trying to move, money around and players around, and they're the Yankees at the end of the day. So they can do what they want to do. And, even if Cashman leaves, are they going to make the playoffs? If Cashman leaves, will they make the playoffs?
By the way, Theo Epstein is still out there, who built the Red Sox, and then he turned around and built up a champion there with the Cubs. He's working with the MLB. He's a free agent, basically.
Yeah, and there was talk about him.
Or maybe somebody that's like him. It don't have to be Theo Epstein.
Well, there's not many people that are like Theo or like Cashman. So that's the problem.
That's why I thought of him. This dude's pretty good,
Yeah, I mean, and another thing, though, he played with people's money, though. He was like, he went out there and he did his thing and it worked for him, you know.
Yeah.
But again, like if the management and the leadership, if they don't want to do anything because they're strapped or they were penny pinching, then it's a cause and effect type deal, you know. And with the Yankee and the Mets, there's two different things going on, you know, because Cohen's there. He got Epler, who was part of Cashman's team for the Yankees for a few years.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
Then he was and then he went to Los Angeles and went with the Angels. He got Ohtani. He did a couple deals there. You know, so you know, Epler knows about baseball. He's not, you know, he's not new to the game.
Right.
But
and this may be already implemented. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because you're hearing stuff that I didn't hear. That's interesting. And going with John, I don't know if the Steinbrenner's son, was it Hank or whatever? I don't think he has that dog like that. Dad would have probably moved off Cashman a few years ago.
Here's the thing about Cashman. Cashman has a relationship with the Steinbrenners.
Yeah.
Like they're almost like in a brotherhood. Like,
oh yeah, 25 years, man.
Because no, not just him working there. They own horses together. They've grown up together, right? Cashman, I've seen these guys.
Cashman was very young when he got hired.
Yeah, so you know, they have a trust in him too. So when you have that kind of like relationship, it's gonna be hard for them to let someone like Cash. And again, Yankee fans hate this, but he's been taking them to the playoffs ever since, you know, they moved on from, you know, Buck, and they moved on from the other coaches. Like, he's been in a play. They might not have been winning World Series in the last 20 years, but they've been in the run.
Do you think they make it this year? They get hot and
they're gonna be probably the last team in the playoffs, and then
they got the talent. They should get there, you know. They're
gonna say the same thing. Well, we got the team to the playoffs, and then the Yankee fans are gonna be like, "Yay, we're gonna buy more tickets next year." I mean, if they make any changes, it might be that they fire Boone. But if they fire Boone, who are they gonna bring in? If you fire Boone, what manager is gonna come in and make them 5 times better than what they are today?
Well, it's not going to be a new manager. I agree with John. I think Cashman has overlooked pitching, middle relief, and I think he's got to take a step back. You know, it's hard to move those contracts because they're so big.
Let's talk about a few things that Cashman has been involved in with his players, though. In a few seasons before CC retired, he just like Herman right now had an alcohol issue. Is that Cashman's fault that he had an issue with alcohol? No. You know, and when these players go out, is that Cashman's fault? It's Cashman's fault that he picks up players and trying to penny pinch and trying to get players to play over the contract. Yeah. He got Donaldson, hoping that he would get something out of him. You know, he got Biner. He got a few other players on the clip trying to get stuff out of him. I mean, he's puzzling and he's maneuvering things. And then at the end, he's like, he got, you know, fans tripping in his ears, bosses tripping in his ears. As long as money comes in, he'll never get fired. How about that?
No. Like I said, George, these kids don't have the dog like George had that dog in him, man.
The Yankees are a billion dollars type of business.
I think they're like top 5 most valuable brand. They're up there with Manchester, and you know Dallas is the most valuable brand in all sports in the whole world. The Cowboys. The Yankees are still. I think they're like in that top 5. Yeah.
And how many times have they won a championship? And how many last time they've been in the Super Bowl?
Hey, that's very good marketing by Jerry Jones, man.
It's just these are historic teams, man. They're historic teams, and one or two pieces in management ain't really gonna affect the whole ownership, man. So that's why they're not worried about throwing people under the bus or firing them or moving them, like, you know, because at the end it's $1 billion industry, and it has to be something huge to make them like make moves, right?
Right. You know, so, and there
like this whole Judge deal. I'm surprised Judge took the Yankees deal, even though San Francisco offered him more money.
Yeah,
but like it affected the Yankees for sure. They you know, they're not gonna be shopping like crazy because they already spent that money, right? When you got a budget, you know what I'm saying? So.
Say he's talking about Dominguez. Remember Mike Stanton? I just think about those late 90s, early you remember guys that come in the middle of the game, and we know about Rivera, like Mike Stanton, David. What I know he was a starter, but that middle relief is a big deal, man.
Look, in a lot of pitchers, they went over 4 or 5 innings too. When they had Doc Gooden, he pitched games where he was, he had a no-hitter.
Doc Gooden, yeah.
Same thing with David Cone. David Cone was there too.
Cone,
they were
Clemens.
They peaked. They had Roger Clemens, Mike Mussina. Mike Mussina was one of the best and most underrated pitchers.
I forgot about Mike Mussina. Yeah,
Mike Mussina was a machine.
Wasn't he a middle relief guy too at one point?
No, he was a starter.
They didn't move him in. Okay.
No, he was a starter.
And Pettit was the best pickoff artist. It's just who they really got consistently, other than Cole.
Well, they what's his name's coming back? The mustache. I don't think he's a.
Dennis Eckersley.
No,
I'm kidding.
What's his name? I forget his name already. I mean, he's good, but I feel like he should be in middle relief. But a lot of people, they keep starting him, and he's a starter. I don't know. This is what his 3rd or 4th season. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's another huge story, and I just keep dancing around it, dude. Okay. So since the last time I talked to you, man, now the Pac-10 is down to the Pac-4.
Woof. Another money situation.
Oregon and Washington are going to be playing in the Big Ten August 2nd next year. 1 year ago from now, less than a year. These guys, Oregon and Washington, are going to be able to play against Ohio State, Michigan. What's your thoughts on this, man?
Listen, those coaches have got to be careful, man. They just opened a can of worms.
Yeah, they did.
They did, because now they're thinking that they're like the best team in football. Every season they go win because they got the best recruits. Well, when you don't get recruited to go to Michigan, but you end up at Oregon or Washington State because you're a 4.5 star and not a 5 star, or you just somehow or another the coach didn't put you on the roster or pick you, and you're gonna see these guys again, they're gonna mess you up, man. You don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's
Oregon. It was funny. The other day, the Oregon coach was asked about losing Colorado to the Big 12.
He's like,
who are they? Who are they beating? We got to stay loyal, blah, blah, blah. And the meanwhile, a few days later, Oregon is moving to the Big Ten. Now, he's recruiting really well. Dan Lanning, the former defense coordinator for Georgia, recruiting pretty well up there.
It's gonna be good though, because you usually don't get those matchups until bowl games.
I was on John's show earlier, and that was a great game. Oregon 2 years ago, I want to say, went to Ohio State and beat them in an early start time game. If you remember that game, with Kayvon Thibodeau was out, and Oregon went across the country and beat them. I could not believe that. But seeing Oregon with the possibility of playing Ohio State in the regular season, that would be money. That is a good matchup. USC, Ohio State, Michigan, and Washington. Washington, by the way, this year, they've got a quarterback for Washington that could go in the draft pretty high.
Washington is finally, that
guy's got a really good arm. Penix or whatever.
Yeah, Keith has a show on Wednesdays about college sports, and
that's right. Yeah.
And I'd be on there, and I told them, like, what happened to the Huskies? Why are they not, getting better? They used to be competitive, and they went in there, they changed things around. Good for their alumni to support and find somebody else in there, and it's good for their athletic department to have football and be on the rise. And if it wasn't for the transfer portal, that probably would have never happened. And the same thing I would talk about Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech used to have a good football team. They used to be very competitive, and they haven't been. And now in the next few years, you're going to see Georgia Tech come up in the ranks. But now they're going to bust up the ACC too. So, what does it matter? Like, but it's when you have those teams that historically had good football teams and now they don't, or they're not as competitive, then you're like, now you see them that they're coming back into the mix of things. It makes college football a little bit better. Regional wise, you want to see those matchups. You want to see you want to see that them play their, their whatchamacallits,
Traditional rivals.
yeah, you want to see their rivals, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes those rivalry games are just drag out, right? Because nobody
Right.
wants to lose.
Because one
They
team
play-
is way down, you know.
Yeah, they don't want to lose, and then they play that calculated, football, and that's disgusting. I mean,
we're in for the best season 1 year from now ever in the college game of our life as far as quality football. There's a chance FSU could lead the ACC.
right.
I
Yeah.
mean, do you have a matchup? I sent you this in the text. Who would you like to see play every year, or at least every other year, if you had your matchup of anybody in the country?
I'd like to see Tennessee play University of Miami every year,
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
and it should be something like that because regionally they're not that far apart.
No.
But because of the conferences, because you see Tennessee and Florida play all the time,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, I want to see them play Miami. I want them to play Florida State, because Tennessee versus Florida state versus state,
Yeah.
you got some good rivalry going there, state-wise, nice. So I would like to see that, but
Yeah, that one would
Tennessee,
be good.
Miami, because I grew up liking the 80s and the Hurricanes, and
They were cold, man.
yeah, man, and then like as I got older and the longer I lived in Tennessee, and before there was the Titans and Memphis and all that stuff, I mean, I saw Tennessee play, and I was like, okay, and all this jazz and talk about Peyton Manning, but at the end it wasn't him who took Tennessee to a championship. It was somebody else. So
Do you recall? Let me know if I'm wrong on my years here. Was it 2002 or I think it was 3? Tennessee got destroyed by Miami in Tennessee. But in 2004, Tennessee goes down big underdogs and beats Miami in Miami. And the tight end there who went out to be a pro, he was really mad in the locker room going on.
Was that Shockey?
No, the other guy. The one that got in all the trouble.
Winslow.
Remember he was going crazy in the locker room.
That's what I'm saying. That's why
I was jumping up and down. I was working. We were in college. We were at Austin Peay at the time.
Yeah. Justin Winslow, who's in a lot of trouble now.
Some rape conviction or something like that with an old lady. He's really messed up. His dad's a Hall of Famer.
Right. His dad is a Hall of Famer.
Keelan Winslow Sr. But those Miami games were huge.
That's what I'm saying. I would like to see that every year, Imagine that every year.
I think we'll get some good matchups out of Tennessee, Oklahoma next year. Heupel used to play. He played at Oklahoma. Now Tennessee's going to go to Oklahoma next year. If Oklahoma's got the same coach. Right now, Tennessee would be favored in that game.
I mean, Tennessee keeps they keep building up that team, but that transfer portal keeps knocking them down a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you just got
Joe Milton used to play for Michigan, by the way. And he looks great at Tennessee, but it's his camp. I mean, he's got a rocket howitzer for an arm. He wasn't polished under Michigan. Now, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh saying that Michigan's going to have more pros that get drafted this year or next year in April than Georgia did last year. Like 2024 is what he's saying. 20 to 24 players.
You got to say something to stay relevant. I mean, he's on the short end of the stick, man.
Well, he's supposed to have their best. Now, I know he's suspended. You had any comments on that? He's kind of a BS thing, with the COVID stuff. And
look, at the end of the day, man, there's rules and regulations, and if you're the head coach, man. It ends and starts with you. Like, you don't know how to be not in trouble? Come on, man. You're supposed to be the grown man and set the example.
It's like he hit a low point in 2020. The COVID year. That's the year he got in trouble for talking to the recruits and doing all that. And NCAA found out about it, and he got suspended 4 games. That was also the year. It was a shortened season. Remember, they got blown out by Ohio State that year.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was forced to make some staff changes, make the pay cut, or get fired. So he does all this, turns everything around, and beats Ohio State twice and gets to the playoffs last year, and now he looks like they're the king of the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's at the end of the day, it's horrible, right? And you get what you get, and you can't get upset, like. But again, you're the man. You're supposed to set everything up, and these young men, they follow you, and the alumni follow you, and a lot of people are looking. You have a lot of eyes on you. What do you when I hear about these coaches, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, first of all, they did a nationwide search for you, right?
Yeah.
So second of all, the alumni is the first group of people that you have to maintain and make sure that you're always impressing them, right?
Yeah.
Because they're gonna pay your checks, at the end of the day, it comes through the school, and then at the end, that's the first group, and then the second group, the players, right? The players should be the first, but the players don't pay your checks, so right. But you got all sets of eyes watching. You got the alumni, you got the players, and then you're a big school like Michigan, you got the media on you. So when these guys do these things, in my head, I'm like, what are you doing? If this is a situation that you can't control because that's the person that you are, you're a controlling person, you're a head coach. This is not a situation for you then, man. Like, like take a step back. And a lot of people, a lot of older players, a lot of you'll hear them like, nah, I don't want to coach, because they know.
Yeah, that's
true,
man.
What it entails, right?
It can be not as you really got to have it in your blood. I remember what was the guy's name? I can't remember his name now. He calls games for Fox, and he works with Gus Johnson, Steve Klatt, I think, Joel Klatt. Joe Klatt.
Yeah,
he was interviewing Saban, talking about very thing you just mentioned, and Nick Saban's like, okay, do you want to start working at 7 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night? You're going to miss family functions. You want to get into coaching? But he loves that stuff, though, man.
You have to, like you said, you have to have a head for that. Like, and look what I like about those coaches.
Yeah.
Like Calipari, like,
oh yeah.
Pitino, like, Paterno, like, like Saban.
All those basketball coaches.
All those guys say the one most important thing is that the players play for them because those men treat them like men, and they challenge them, right? They're young guys and they get challenged and they treat them like men, and then they turn around, go to NFL and act a fool, or it's not the same, because they already men and they don't want to be treated like they're young bucks, and that's why a lot of these coaches lose their job, because they're trying to control guys who are adults, right? And it's not the same as college. Now you have a child. Now now you got other responsibilities. You have the responsibility to yourself, because now you're in contract, so you have to keep your body, in the shape and stuff like that. So it's nobody want to hear somebody in your ear when you go home and you got people in your ear. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I just wonder how Saban has managed it all these years. Maybe because he's built for college more.
Yeah, but I was going to say, why would you think? Why would
Jason Taylor? Those guys are supposed to be charged Nick Saban when he was at Miami.
Saban did well for himself, recognizing where he belongs. You know what I'm saying? And the challenge of a college football season is to try to stay undefeated, and that's what he does. Like, you, and the NFL is not like that. You can be undefeated and you can still You're
just wondering if that would change with this playoff coming up next year. 12 teams. Say if you're a Alabama team, you're 7-0, but you've got a gauntlet coming up. You've got LSU, Georgia, Texas A&M. Do you start resting starters because you can get that last? I don't think they'll do that, but I'm just using a hypothetical.
The best thing that Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee have is depth, right?
Yeah,
they always got somebody on like.
Well, maybe not as Tennessee as much as Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah, well, I've heard that Tennessee got depth this year, so
they've got a lot of transfers. They got a lot of older players.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see that. But
Milton's like 23.
Like
Hooker was 25 last year. Stetson Bennett was 25.
These men,
they're using all these grad transfer.
Right.
red
Like-
shirt, gray shirt.
Yellow shirt, red shirt, gray. Like, they got all kinds of shirts.
Yeah, they're coming up with all these crazy rules, and then you got guys in their mid-20s that they're
Who's that? Who's that one guy? Remember when we were in school? And we're like
Winky.
for Florida State.
He's like
remember?
27 years old, man. Chris Winky with
Chris
the Florida
Winky.
State.
And then there was another one too that just is a backup for Mahomes. He played forever too in college.
Oh, did he really?
What's his name?
Heineke?
Hank. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not Hanky. What's his name?
I thought it was Henny. Chad Henne.
Chad Henne, bro.
Yeah.
Chad Henne.
1990. Let me make sure I got this cat's name right. Yeah, Chris Winky. We had it right. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, we used to laugh because, like, man, because we weren't young. We were like,
We thought 27 was 1,000 years old, man.
yeah, remember, because we were hanging out with Joe. Remember?
Yeah.
And Joe was he came from the military.
Yeah, he was an older guy, wasn't he?
He was an older guy. Yeah, he was already in his mid-30s, and we were just like, you could go and play football.
Yeah, we was
Joe.
like 21, 22. Yeah, that is true, man. That's funny how kids look at stuff. So we was talking about this before. You keep mentioning the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the NFL. Do you really see them as a potential sleeper this year?
Yeah. So what I'm looking at is the people that are under the gun, right?
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield, if he don't play well this season, that's it for him. Like,
Yeah.
he's. I don't know if a team will even take him as a backup because, like, you want somebody as your starter, right? And then your backup is never better than your starter because you don't want to pay him, right? Right, because you got less money to play with. So it's very rare to find 32 teams that have 32 great backups.
No.
Yeah. So that's my theory, is that he got to play to keep that max level contract as a starter.
Yeah, his backup is Kyle Trask and John Wolford. Now, Wolford played from the Rams.
Yep, Wolford played on Rams.
Yeah,
So-
and a lot of people's talking about, if this team goes south, the trade deadline's coming up in November. Don't you think Mike Evans would be a trade piece?
Yeah, that's another thing, is that they still have Mike Evans. They'll have a few quarterbacks. They have a few running backs and a few wide receivers there.
Yeah, him and Godwin.
But what I like about that team is that on their defense, they got nothing but speed and youth.
Yeah.
And they got a bunch of guys that have to prove themselves to get max contracts to stay on that team. A lot of them are on are rookies, second, third year rookies that that want to stay in Tampa. I mean, Tampa. When you're at Tampa, you don't want to leave Tampa because
he'll be 30. He'll be 30 at the end of the month. I thought he was a little older than that. So that's not bad for Evans. And
Mike
then,
Evans,
Godwin's only 27.
Godwin is, yeah.
Man, I'd try to trade both of them for draft picks, but that's just me.
Nah, man, I think Tampa right now are okay on their youth. They're trying to balance it out, which is why I think they're the dark team, because if you get beat or you lose and you're young, you don't care. It's like in one ear out the other. But when you're older and you're like, this is I'm on my last 2 years, I ain't coming back to play no more. You want to win. You want to be on a winning team. So it's more frustrating, So
yeah, I mean,
hey.
if Jansen can play at center, I'm just looking at their Tristan Wirfs. If he could play 16 games at left tackle, their defense is fair. Vita Vita at nose tackle, very good. Cornerbacks Carlton Davis, and of course Jamel Dean and Antonio Winfield. I mean, that's a fair defense right there. Devin White at the middle linebacker spot there. They got a new offensive coordinator. Remember, they let their offensive coordinator go. I don't know who he is. I'm about to look up real quick. I mean, there is a maybe Baker Mayfield wins comeback player of the year. Some guy named Dave Charles, offensive coordinator. He was a quarterback coach with Seattle. So they're saying if he could do something with Geno, maybe he could do something with Baker.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing for Baker,
but I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think it'll fall apart.
Is the fact that he can't be saying that it's his shoulder now. Like, he can't be like, Now you got to step up. He got all the money in the world for being the first draft pick, man. I mean, he got a lot of incentives, man. And
he had a lot of endorsements too.
Yeah, and he didn't do too bad, but then he started getting injuries, and then that the situation in Cleveland is always a situation, right? So he's in Tampa now. Tampa's kind of like, they're in a rebuild type of situation. So, but again, it's on Baker, and if everything starts and ends with your quarterback, right? That's what we learned, right? So
yeah, and here's my team, man. Possible sleepers. These aren't guarantees. It's August.
Right.
I'll give you my actual. Mark this down. The Friday after Labor Day, have your playoff teams and everything ready. I know that's a long way away, but that week, the week of Labor Day, I'm gonna have every division broken down, every divisional wild card, conference winner, Super Bowl winner, you name it. But here's a sleeper nobody's really talking about. This Commander team with Sam Howell.
Hey, man.
Second-year player. We talked about Eric Bieniemy taking over as offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. They got this receiver, man, that a lot of people ain't talking about, and I want to make sure I got him right. Johan Dotson, he's a big playmaker guy, not to mention Terry McLaurin, and, of course, Curtis Samuel, who's a big-time gadget guy. Brian Robertson Jr., he got shot last year and missed games as a botched robbery. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he comes back in the middle of the season. He's this big, powerful running back they got, and of course they've also got Antonio Gibson. He's more of your pass catching guy. They still got Chase Young. He's on a contract years. Had some injury issues. Deron Payne got an extension. Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. That's a well of a front line, man.
Defense, son.
Yeah, I mean, they're really good up front. Remember, this team beat Philadelphia when Philadelphia was fully healthy. So there's the players are there,
right,
in the trenches. Maybe the offensive line is a little suspect, but I don't know. Charles Leno, actually, they got a pretty good left tackle. The middle's okay.
They upped that. They were.
Oh, they got Andrew Wiley from Kansas City in the offseason. Eastern Michigan player. Yeah, so they got him at guard. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean,
I think
Howell may take a step back instead of a step forward. I don't know, but
yeah, I think in NFC it'll be Dallas, the Redskins, the Giants. Oh, not the Redskins. I'm sorry, the Commanders. I don't think the Giants. They might come in third or last. I don't see them.
Yeah, right now I could see the Giants finishing in last place.
Yeah, because the Eagles they're gonna be at least in third, I think.
The Eagles, I think I may try to get Jim Jeffcoat on. Yeah. Dallas has got Stephon Gilmore, and he's supposed to have a whole lot left in the tank at corner. With who's the other cornerback? I've been talking about him now. I forgot his name. Trayvon Diggs. Micah Parsons. Running game, they're going to be a ball control offense, and they're going to play really good defense. Now, Philadelphia on paper, best team out there still, man. Right. Everything is about Hurts staying healthy.
I think they'll get the second spot because
you think Dallas is going to win that division?
Yeah, I do.
But Dak Prescott missed 4 games last year, didn't he?
Yeah, well, here's the thing also about Dallas is that they revamped their team. They've gotten a little younger on defense.
Yeah.
What I like is that the Washington Commanders, they're going to split games with the Giants, the Eagles, and maybe even Dallas. If they split those games up, then that changes everything in the division, right?
Yeah.
Because can Dallas sweep all those games? Probably not.
And I'll have to break that down. You always want to say, are they playing so-and-so after a Monday night? For example, I think they play in week 2. Correct me if I'm wrong here. The Jets.
Who, Dallas?
Yeah. And I think they're going to catch the Jets flat-footed because the Jets got to play Buffalo on that Monday night game, if I'm not mistaken.
It's It's going to be a crazy schedule. Let's see.
Yeah, man, I can look up there. Dallas is a team that truth be told, Dallas could mess around and go to the Super Bowl because of their defense is that good right now.
Right. So they got to play the Giants on the 10th, and then they play the Jets on the 17th. Yeah, they're gonna
it's in Dallas. That's why I don't think the Jets can hang with them. I think Dallas is going to be in good shape there. And of course Rodgers, he sees Dallas, he's going to play well, but
I don't know, man. Michael Parsons versus Aaron Rodgers is going to be.
Well, is it Aaron Rodgers or is it Micah Becton? Let me play you this. I almost forgot, man. I keep wanting to go to the Twitter thing, and I got to look for that X.
X, bro.
X gonna give it to you. Gonna give it to you.
That's probably what he was thinking when he was like, "Let's just change."
Was he just listed some DMX on a Saturday night, and he's like, "You know what? I knew you would get that reference." I said, "I bet he was thinking the same thing, man."
He's just mad at people like.
Yeah, I said, you know, he.
You remember the album starts out, and he's like,
yeah. First we're gonna rock, then we're gonna roll. Let it go. X gonna give it to you. I'm trying to find this.
No, you need a chain right now, man. You need a dog.
Where the hood at?
My man, no, you know what? I'm not for nothing.
I love those old DMX hits.
Rest in peace, DMX. Man.
I love DMX, man.
Like, the summer was coming up, and I was like, you know what I miss in New York is when people were driving around in their little ATVs and was like, it was Rough Riders, you know.
I should use that for my intro.
Yeah, man.
Okay, here's Michael Becton after last night's game. He played 7 snaps, Carlos, on offense. He was supposed to play 20 to 25. Listen to him afterwards.
Oh my God, I don't want to hear it.
Here he is.
I wouldn't say I got to get more confident. I would say I just gotta know that this is my new normal. Like I'm gonna have days where it's painful. I'm gonna have days where it's not painful. So that's just what it is.
Talking about his knee, Carlos.
Yeah, I mean, knowing the type of player that I am and the things that I like to do. So yeah, it's a little tough.
He's got some sunglasses on and a necklace look like a DMX necklace, and I'm thinking this guy is play when he wants to. I mean, if that knee's bothering you, they need to make a move and get that replacement done now instead of before the season starts. So I'm a little concerned about that after.
What did I say to you from the get? Like, this guy's mind's not right. He shouldn't have said nothing or anything to any media about anything. He should have been just like, oh, coaches wanted me to get out. I was like, you know what? I'll just go listen to the coach. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say.
I don't even know if Dwayne Brown is even the other tackle. Is he even practicing?
Oh, man. What I say is, to me, for the Jets, it doesn't matter who you bringing around Rodgers, who's blocking for him. I said that, and I've been saying that since day one. I'm glad that I'm glad that Rodgers is in New York.
Yeah.
Did they even get Dalvin Cook? No. They haven't done, they're going to put weapons around this guy, but who is blocking for him? That's the most important piece of the puzzle.
If Rodgers gets creamed in that Buffalo game, you got to look at the Joe Douglas and Saloff and say, what are you guys doing? Why didn't you make a trade up in the draft and go after one of these tackles instead of getting another defensive end,
Look, mark this game, September 17th.
Yeah.
If Micah Parsons knocked the heck out of Aaron Rodgers, that's the rest of the season for the Jets.
I'll put it this way. I think they'll lose either to Buffalo or that Dallas game. They're not going to go 2-0. They could go 0-2. If these guys ain't playing come week 1, that's why I don't like to make my picks until at the very end.
No, but Robert, I already said this.
Yeah, you called it, man. You said that it's shaky.
I think
that line is shaky, man. And Rodgers is 39 itself,
I think that both New York teams, as much as they have so much headway and we're excited about last year, you better, if you're a player on those teams, you better forget last year.
Mac and Jack does not like me talking like that.
This is a new year and a new game. It's a new game because everybody wants to get in that wild card.
Yeah.
Right? Because every team knows they're not going to go undefeated.
Right.
I have never heard any team in the NFL in the last 5 to 10 years saying we're gonna go undefeated.
Right.
You know, and even when
They
they
say
go
it privately, but you know.
yeah. But even when these teams are like 5-0 and 6-0, and they're like
one week at a time, you know.
Yeah, we just playing. We'll give it. You know, they're not like they're not like, you know, tomorrow's not promised to us. So you know, we just gonna do what we got to do to you know. And I don't like that kind of talk, but you know, it's whatever. But because you can't say nothing and not be able to back it up, because then they just you know.
Only thing positive I could say about Rodgers in this air quote situation is they were going on the road, tackles out on the offensive line against a red-hot Arizona Cardinal team 2 years ago on a Thursday night game, and they beat them. They beat them. But can you do that every week? I don't know. You know, I think he had the same quarterback coach or offensive coordinator he's got now. You remember that game, that Thursday game at Arizona? They were like 6 or 7-0.
And they made Arizona look like they got one of the best defenses.
They had Chandler Jones on that team, Budda Baker, and they fell apart later when I think whatchamacallit got hurt, Murray or something. But you know, everybody thought they were going all the way to the Super Bowl. They were they killed Tennessee in week 1 that year. This was in 21, I think. So, anyways, yeah, I'm not here to write off the Jets. I am concerned about those 2 tackles, though, man. That's the biggest story of the whole. Everything else is fine, but if Rodgers gets knocked down, you got Zach Wilson. You got that's a deja vu all over again with Zach Wilson, man.
That's why I feel. Remember, I said it yesterday when I was like, this seemed like the same team that was last year. And then Linda goes out.
I can't talk like this in front of Mac and Jack. They get upset, man.
And then Linda
they want me to tell her everything is rosy up there in New York.
And then Linda was like, "It's the second team, Carlos." I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, no, that was true. These preseason games, don't try to make any kind of narrative because you're second and third team guys. Some of these guys are gonna be working at the grocery store.
But again, if you're on the second and third team and you want to be on the first team, you got to play all. You got to. This is where you show.
Who won that game?
It's Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
I put on the tournament for soccer, so I was like, yeah, I ain't putting it.
I made a promise to myself to not watch any more Hall of Fame games. I mean, they're unwatchable. I'll try to watch the second or third. I may watch Tennessee next week with Levis and Malik Willis battle it out, but there's not going to be no starters.
I don't think that's a battle, man. They just.
You think it's going to be Levis?
No, man.
Willis?
I think Willis has got. I think he's got.
Well, he's had a better camp so far.
He's tempered down. You know, he ain't like, I'm going to take the job. He's just like, I'm going to have the job eventually. And I like that he's tempered down. And I'm hearing good things about him in the camp. And then putting Levis out there, he's just a hothead. And I think Willis likes that he's a hothead so he can just show him out, you know?
You think so?
Yeah, man. I think they'll be all right.
I'm going to have to get off here, man. Let's see if I can get us some little outro music here. Well, never mind. They're doing a commercial thing. I might hold on. Let's see if you recognize this.
Yo, next week we'll be up. I'll be in the Tennessee.
Oh yeah. Keep up, man. Let me know something. Hey, you know something? We could hang out Friday if you want to. We'll do a replay of the show and all that stuff.
We do the show. We do the show live.
You mean this game right here? This is what Elon Musk should, he should have this on his Twitter timeline here.
I'm sure he was listening to that all drinking and having fun and was like, I'm just going to
right? Sorry about the language, y'all. X gonna give it to you. Every time I see that X on that icon with Twitter, I think about that song,
He gonna give it to you. Musk is gonna give it to you.
Yeah, SpaceX. He should just change Tesla to Xla. No, that sounds too much like X-Lax. Never mind.
That's the next thing he gonna use.
Hey, man. Stay in touch, and everybody, I'll see you on tomorrow, and I'll get a regular outro.